All right, Jimmie, we're going to start with you, then we'll get into the business. And looking at your LinkedIn, this question doesn't seem to be overly complex. It almost like it found you, but how did you accidentally fall into franchising? What's your franchise backstory?
Oh goodness, it's a long story. I'll give you the short and hopefully entertaining version of it. So it was probably 20 years ago. I was working for a city, just doing like program directing for city events, like an event coordinator for the most part. And I happened to come across this young man who had started this interesting concept in Macon, Georgia, and it was all tied around cleaning swimming pools. And this guy, the founder of ASP, Stuart Vernon, was actually my brother-in-law. And so I made a few visits to Macon from South Carolina. My hometown was Clemson, South Carolina, and I became attracted to small business in general, the entrepreneurial spirit that I saw within him, and so it was attractive to me. And so after a few conversations with Stuart, I decided to launch at that time, it wasn't America's Swimming Pool Company. It was called All Seasons Pool Company. And that was later changed after a few years once franchising started to ASP, America Swimming Pool Company. But I decided to launch an ASP in my hometown of Clemson, South Carolina. And that was in late 2004. And not long after that, I quit my job with the city. And I was cleaning pools and repairing, pool equipment and renovating swimming pools. And then from there, the franchising concept really took off. Stuart began to really build the model, and then 2005, the second franchise, which was Charleston, South Carolina, came into play, and the rest is history. We now have 148 franchisees in 26 states.
All right, lots of things I want to unpack from that. So you went franchisee first, and then it sounds like you went through a process of get the business up and running, then quit your job. Is that like looking back on it, like how fast did that process go, and how quickly did you realize that, all right, this is kind of cool that there's a business structure here that has tremendous demand, especially at that point?
Yeah, absolutely. There were a lot of variables going on at that time. I mean, I had just, my wife and I had two small children. My son at the time was 3. My daughter was not quite 1 yet. And we just bought our first house. And all of a sudden, I'm making the decision to leave a steady job with benefits to go and clean people's pools. So I got a lot of crazy looks for that. But I think too, it was a motivating factor for me to make it work. And I believed in Stuart, and he was there for me. He answered every call. And like I said, I would drive 3 hours south to Macon to do some training. But this was before there was a franchise model. There was no websites then. It was just truly grassroots marketing, handing out business cards, getting in front of people, and there was a level of excitement, fear, which turned into motivation, and I look back at it and I have fond memories. But it's hard work, absolutely hard work.
At what point, obviously starting up your business, becoming a franchisee, at what point do you start morphing into entrepreneur versus like the employee mindset? Like, how long did it take you to realize, like, I'm an entrepreneur now?
Yeah. I think really from day one, and I think that's why I was drawn to Stuart and the vision that he had with America's Swimming Pool Company. It wasn't so much the business itself in regards to what we do. We clean pools and we repair equipment, we renovate pools, now we build pools. But it was more about the entrepreneurial side of things, like working on the business versus in the business, was something that was a philosophy of his that he instilled in me, and then now we instill in all of our franchisees as they come in. We want to partner with business-minded individuals, and really don't care if you know anything about swimming pools other than maybe having swim in one at some point. But yeah, I think that's the point. The point is very early on. I knew that it wasn't so much the pool business I was attracted to. It was, being a business owner and having some say in, really my future from a compensation standpoint.
We did a COVID move to Atlanta and then quit Atlanta, moved back to Chicago. So there's that.
Go Cubs.
Yeah, go Cubs. When we were in Atlanta, we had a pool, and there's a few things that I went through as a consumer that I'd never experienced. I've pitched and worked with brands in this space probably my entire franchise career, and even going back with ASP a long time ago. But I didn't understand supply and demand until I was actually sitting in the seat of a consumer. I probably filled out 20 forms on websites and got 0 callbacks. Yeah. One guy called back like 6 months later and said, "Am I still looking for service?" I had to rely on a guy as a referral from one of the neighbors when I moved in, just begging him to say, like, can you help us on our pool too? And I'm using that as an example. There's very few categories where I see that pent up demand. There are categories where, for argument's sake, carpet cleaning. If I search for carpet cleaning, I can get 1 million people that want to come clean my carpet in 5 minutes from now. Right. But pools and senior care seem to be 2 categories that the demand is so much higher than the supply. And I'm sure early stage for you saw that, but that seems to still exist. Like, people want pools and there's not enough people that want to do this work. Have you seen that change at all over your career, or is it still the same?
It's still the same. What's interesting about the pool industry is it's so fragmented. It's made up of the majority of it's made up of mom and pops, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. I think that what tends to happen is that there is a pent-up demand in most markets because there really doesn't seem to be any consistency with what pool companies will do and the services that they provide. Not all pool companies will come out and clean your pool weekly. Those that clean your pool, they may not necessarily have the skill set to repair your equipment when it fails. And very few are able to renovate the pool when it's time to, update it and make it new again. So I think because of that fragmentation, it has created an opportunity for a brand like ours, for example. And there's other swimming pool industry franchise systems that have popped up over the past 20 years for sure. But it does provide an opportunity because there is some structure. We're branded, we're uniformed, we have wrapped vehicles. We answer our phone, and we pride ourselves on those things. And we're trying to take care of any of the pool problems that the customer may have with their pool.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm hearing, and this is not meant as a criticism in any way, shape, or form. And again, I'm using senior care as a comparison. Caregiver A versus caregiver B is going to care for the customer basically the same way. As long as there's a level of professionalism over that category, then the service is going to be the same. In this category, I feel like there's a lot of similarities here. And because that pent-up demand is still so high, the fragmented piece, I think, is important to note, because fragmentation, in my opinion, equals a lack of professionalism. And therefore, the point of differentiation, we show up uniformed and we have branded cars. Automatically, like, you're showing up in a different way than others.
Right.
But I'm saying all this stuff because on the business construct for a franchise buyer who, like, probably as a small child didn't say I want to own a pool company someday.
Yeah.
But to be in a business with pent up demand where you don't like winning is not over, like the expectations aren't overly high, like just be a good human being and
Right.
then solve my problems. That's where over the last 20 years there can be competition that pops up, and it's irrelevant because the demand's so high, and just a little bit level of professionalism equals helps a franchisee race to break even. Is that accurate?
Very much so. Very much so. And I think that's the value of franchising in general. I think people can absolutely go out and start their own business, and you can you can either work under somebody to get the knowledge, or go to YouTube and watch a lot of videos. Depending on what the service that you're going into, there's opportunities to learn and to take off. I think the value of the franchising side that at least we provide is the processes and procedures that are in place, and all the vendor relationships, and so that when they launch, there's pent up demand. The phone's going to ring from day one because we've got the marketing going out. They're answering the phone, or our call center's answering the phone if they cannot, and they're prepared and able to go and again address any of those needs. So we do see that, and I think that's a value add, if you will, and what's still very much a fragmented industry.
When you're talking to a buyer today, are they coming to the table saying, has it transformed into they're coming to the table saying, I want to own a pool service company? Or are they coming to the table and saying, I have some money, I would like to be a franchise owner, this is interesting? Like, has that progressed, or is it progressing?
That's a really good question. I think for us, what we typically see is it's someone looking for an opportunity to own their own business. And so it's not necessarily that they're attracted to the swimming pool business, though that happens. I think that happens once they begin to explore who we are, and once they start having conversations with our friend dev manager, and really starting to understand what services we provide, how they make money, doing what we do. I still feel like there's most of the candidates that are coming in are really just looking for an opportunity. And a lot of times, assuming they're not coming from a broker, for example, let's say they just, they're sitting at their computer and they search small business opportunities. A lot of times, and I would say most of our candidates that come through, that's how they find us. They come across our system, and then they reach out, but I think it's one of those things where, for the most part, it's always about them wanting to own their own business. They've always wanted to. They've worked for corporate America for 20 years or whatever, and they want to have some control over their future. So,
are you still a franchisee?
I'm not. I was a franchisee for 5 years, and then sold my franchise in South Carolina, and did so to come on board in a operations role, VP of operations, in 2010, and served in that role until about a little over 3 years ago now. I moved into the president seat, and run the brand now.
In your opening statement, you talked about Stewart as a part of the reason you bought in, obviously connected family wise,
Sure.
which I'm sure around the dinner table gave you a different viewpoint on the person that you're betting on. How, like, obviously as time goes on, and he's still involved in Authority Brands, the umbrella company, but
Correct.
how important is the founder story when the founder has exited the business? And is it still a part of the story on establishing the vision, or does it turn over into, it's really your vision now as the brand president and they're buying into you? Has that transformed over time?
Yeah, I would say, I would compare that to, or answer it this way. It's very similar to passing off the torch or the baton. I think that's what he did to me 3 years ago as he was elevated within the Authority Brands, our parent company. And so a lot of his vision has been adopted by me and by our team. And it's almost like I would say it's like within our culture, almost like a DNA that's within our culture. And that pours down through our franchise system. And so, yeah, I would say, I mean, things change, obviously. And there's different problems every year that we have to resolve. But I would say from a vision standpoint and how the business was started over 20 years ago, that is still our those are our core values and principles.
Love it. If there is a franchise buyer that's watching this, what else do you want them to know about the business opportunity?
Yeah, no, I think you did a great job of selling it. I think there's pent up demand. I think it can be as simple as, and we've got a pool school training going on right now. It ends today, and they'll go and they'll launch next week. But it's like we've told this group that's here in Macon. Really, it's as simple as answering the telephone, going and having a conversation with the customer, the pool owner in their backyard, listen to their concerns and issues they have with their swimming pool, because believe me, they're going to have them, and offer them services, and they will pay you for those services. It's really that simple. And so I would say, yeah, I mean, anybody that's looking to get into small business ownership, franchising is a 1 + 1 = 3 type of concept. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. We're going to support you the entire way. We'll get you started. And the industry in general, the swimming pool industry is still a very, I don't know, I would say almost like a young business, service business. But it's starting to really grow. You mentioned the COVID side of things. We saw an incredible increase in pool builds. Well, that's good for the business, right? Because the more pools that are going in the ground, the more opportunity that we're going to have and our franchisees are going to have in the future. So just a huge opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, I love the category. Our first client at our business it's long gone, it was called Weekend out of Swanee, Georgia. It was owned, and looking back at that case study, it's interesting now how it's played out, because you guys are in Macon, they're in Swanee. They were owned by Chemtura that owned BioLab, and BioLab stood this up as a division because of the fragmentation of the industry and their viewpoint. They went retail first, buy your hot tub, then we'll sell the pool service out as a service engine. So they had those two pieces. Unfortunately, this is back in 2008. Chemtura files bankruptcy, which impacts BioLab, and bankruptcy and franchising don't really match.
Right.
But if I go all the way back to the beginning, and now I flash forward 20 years, the reality is that, and we've talked about this, is the demand hasn't adjusted. If I take five guys in 2005, the demand was huge, like a better burger. This is amazing. You go forward, there's demand, but it's not at the level because all the competitors came in. And
Right.
So if I look at an industry that over a 20-year run, competition has come in, hasn't negatively affected the potential customer outreach, and customers are still adding more pools in. And frankly, I mean, personal experience, if I look at our pool, the only thing that frustrated me about the pool is if I couldn't get the temperature up, if that wasn't working, if my app wasn't working in the new technology, and if these leaves kept on falling in my pool after my pool guy came and my pool wasn't clean, I felt like frustrated. All those things are solvable, and I would have paid more for my pool guy to come one more time a week.
Right.
Because the demand was so high. And so I share all those things because when I'm looking at a business opportunity, I use an avatar of carpet cleaning, not a bad business, but it doesn't have the reach of this category because, again, over a 20-year run, what has happened to the category? It's only continued to evolve and get stronger. And then new homeowners come into those homes, they want it too. Like, it doesn't die off. And that's where I think if you're a generalist, I have some money, I want to get into business, if you're comfortable getting your hands dirty a little bit in the beginning stages to build up a business model and eventually scale it and turn into more of sales, then I love this category. I think it's a fantastic thing. And then for you still to be involved, franchisee, connected to the founder, leader of the business, like I bet on jockeys, not on horses. And so now I have, in this case, I could actually bet on both. And that's why I love this category. And I'm grateful that you shared so much of your story with us today.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's great, Nick. One thing I would say there is, again, talking about just the pent-up demand in our industry in general, I think that is the case because not every home has a pool. Every home has, maybe not every home, but most homes have carpet. They're going to have grass to cut. They've got plumbing, electrical, HVAC, all those kind of things. And so national average is 1 out of every 10 homes has a pool. And so not every homeowner is a customer of ours. But every homeowner with a pool is absolutely a customer of ours. And so I think that, again, that kind of separates us from most service-based businesses. And again, it creates this opportunity for anyone that's looking for one.
And then you take that 9 out of 10, and in my head just goes to Christmas Vacation with Clark Griswold, just dreaming of that pool in that backyard. Like the other out of 9 out of 10, there's probably 8 out of those 9 that still have the dream of how do I get that pool back there. So there's tons of potential still too. So yeah,
absolutely. There's a lot of backyards that do not have swimming pools, and we build pools as a part of our model now. And so yeah, absolutely, a lot of opportunity there. And yeah, it's a great business. I've dedicated most of my professional life to it. So I really believe in our business, our model, and the industry in general. It's been very, very good to me and my family.
I love it. Jimmie, thanks for sharing your story. For Jimmie, I'm Nick. This is another Meet the Franchise.